Hi, I'm Bethany Miller. I'm a subject specialist at the PSHE Association, and welcome to the third episode of Ask a Subject Specialist, in which I and other members of our subject specialist team answer your questions about PSHE. We've received loads of interesting questions from you guys, and I'll be answering those that have come up most often. But don't worry if you haven't had yours answered. We'll be answering more of them in upcoming episodes. If you do have any really pressing questions, please email info@pshe-association.org.uk. Our first question is, can you suggest questions to go in a questionnaire to students in Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4? We need to consult them about relationships and sex education. Now, I absolutely can. But the first thing I'd like to do is direct you to our Tools for the Job page, because this contains a range of tools to help you in your design and your consultation about relationships and sex education. If you follow the link to statutory changes and click onto Tools for the Job, one of the buttons you'll see is for our Leads pack. And we have a Leads pack for Key Stage 1 and 2 and for Key Stage 3 and 4 that contains a whole range of information. It includes ways to consult with parents and engage them in constructing your curriculum. It includes ways to talk to young people and engage them in what they feel they need, and also curriculum audits and other key documents you'll need to help you along the way. There are some key questions that you might want to consider, and these are in those pages, in those documents. So when you're asking young people about what they need and what they like about relationships and sex education that's being provided, or what they want to see when you bring this into your classrooms, is that you might want to ask them to assess priority through a ranking activity. So of all of the areas within the statutory guidance and beyond, where do they think each topic should fall? What's most important to them, and what do they want to spend most time on, and what do they feel can have a little bit less time dedicated to it? You might also want to ask them, do they enjoy learning in PSHE? What is it that they enjoy? Is there anything that can be done to improve how much they find it enjoyable or not? We need to check if it's relevant to young people's lives. Is it inclusive? And what's the quality of the lessons like? And by this, I mean, do they think that there is a good range of activities that keeps them engaged? And is there enough pace? Is it going too quickly? Are things being missed off? Do they feel that they need to spend a bit more time on one subject or another? You could also ask them what works well for them. So if they've gone through a particular topic, at the end of their unit, you can ask them, has this worked well? What did you appreciate about it? Is there anything that was missing? So our next question is, are there any new materials for teaching about relationships, especially online? And this is a really, really common question. So again, I'm going to refer you to our statutory changes tab. And if you go into Tools for the Job, you'll find, again, lots and lots of resources that are broken down into primary and secondary phase that will help you to meet the new statutory guidance for relationships education or relationships and sex education. Some of those are shown on the screen now. So we've got the Medway resources, and while this isn't necessarily brand new, it does allow you to make a really comprehensive relationships and sex education scheme of work for Key Stage 1 up to Key Stage 3. There are also unhealthy and healthy relationship lessons from Medway for Key Stage 4. I've showed the NSPCC's Making Sense of Relationships lessons as well here. These are a range of lessons, again for Key Stage 2, 3 and 4, that will help to contribute to a coherent, comprehensive programme. Rise Above have a number of lessons that look at relationships, including online, and what these can feel like and be experienced as, which can be really engaging for young people. And these include videos as well. They're regularly adding new lessons, so it's worth keeping an eye on what they've got out. I've also highlighted our Life Online framework, and the reason that I've highlighted this is because this kind of document and this kind of guidance helps you to think about how you embed online aspects into your regular teaching. Our young people aren't experiencing online as separate from real life. They are seeing it as a whole, they're seeing it quite holistically, and that's how they're experiencing it. So when we're teaching, we need to make sure that that is what's reflected in our lessons, and this guidance document helps you to think about how you can do that. We've also got some resources at the bottom from Think You Know from CEOP. So there is Send a Pic for Key Stage 3 and Online Blackmail for Key Stage 5. Exeter have also released some resources recently on working out relationships, looking at differences, looking at unhealthy relationships and healthy relationships as well, but importantly looking at how to safely get out of unhealthy relationships or relationships that young people don't feel secure in. There's also ChildNet have a range of resources for online safety, including just send it and crossing the line. One of the best ways to find resources about a particular topic you're teaching, if you're using our program builders, and we have 5 of them now, so we have 2 for primary, 1 for a cross-based setting, and 2 for secondary. If you have a look in our program builders, and you'll find on the right-hand side, there is a column saying quality assured resources to support planning, and I've highlighted that for you below. Any new resources that we quality assure will be placed here, and you'll know that they have our quality mark. So you'll know that they are going to meet the needs of your learners in a safe way. Our next question comes from a primary colleague who asks us, what should we teach about FGM at primary schools? And it can feel quite tricky about knowing how to pitch learning about FGM, so female genital mutilation. And the first thing we need to say about this is to follow your school's safeguarding policy if you're ever concerned about a young person, and make sure that you're following the reporting duty as part of your school. If you're not sure what you need to do, then talk to your designated safeguarding lead. Now, there are lots of reasons for why we should teach about FGM at primary school. It is statutory in the guidance for secondary schools, but the underpinning learning does need to be earlier than this in order to safeguard our pupils and make sure they're safe, make sure they know how to seek help and have appropriate language to let people know what it is they need help with. The Keeping Children Safe in Education document for 2020 states that we need to make sure that children are taught about safeguarding, not just that they are protected by our procedures, but they are taught specifically about safeguarding, including online safety, and that schools should consider providing this as part of a broad and balanced curriculum. There are many campaigners and educationalists that state that pupils need to be empowered in earlier years, so in our primary schools, to seek help and support from trusted adults in school and speak up against FGM more readily as they gain independence, so that our next generation are able to talk about it and able to stand up against this practice. So there's a lot of questions about what primary schools should teach, and there are a lot of aspects that contribute to protecting against FGM, even when FGM is not specifically mentioned or not specifically talked about. So these include helping to keep safe, the rights and responsibilities of the child, consent, as we teach normally, so in all contexts, not just sexual, this would be one of those areas, respect, self-worth, how to communicate, and that includes how to seek help, and managing pressure. Some specific learning about FGM could include about what FGM is, so how it affects people as well, the law in FGM, and the language and strategies needed to manage the threat of FGM. So we're not putting it all on the child to manage FGM in this situation. We're helping to give them the language they need and those support-seeking strategies to help to manage the threat of FGM, whether that's for themselves or others. What it doesn't need to include is graphic stories, descriptions, or images of the process, the aftermath, or the tools used. That is the same within any kind of practice of PSHE association. We wouldn't want anything that inspires shock or fear or anything that would be too close to home for any of our pupils. There are a number of organisations that are out there for support. I've highlighted just a few of these here. So the first one is the NHS, and you can go to nhs.uk/conditions/female genital mutilation FGM, and that will provide you with information on what FGM is, who is at higher risk, and ways to get support. Forward charity, so forwarduk.org.uk, is a women's rights charity who also do a lot of work in this area and have a lot of information should you want further information on this topic. Childline is a fantastic pupil-facing way of communicating if they are worried or if they have any questions. So they are online at childline.org.uk, and you can call them at 0800 1111. And NSPCC have a specific FGM helpline and FGM help email address. So the addresses are below, but it's fgmhelp@nspcc.co.uk. And the number for their specific FGM helpline is 0808 028 3550. So our final query for today comes from a secondary colleague, and they ask, are there any new materials out there to teach about alcohol and drugs? Because what they have is really out of date. And I think this is a really common situation we find ourselves in as teachers, where we have some schemes of work, we have some resources that we've been using for a while and that are there, but maybe they're not quite covering what we want them to, or maybe we're not quite sure if they're as effective as what we know is effective now. And I'm really pleased to announce to you all that we have a new scheme of work for Key Stages 1 to Key Stage 4 that address drugs and alcohol. That includes lesson plans for these key stages, resources, and PowerPoint presentations as well. There's also teacher guidance to make sure that your practice is as effective as possible and safe, and an evidence base with some key considerations for how you might want to consider your long-term planning, what kind of topic areas need to be surrounding drug and alcohol education. And if you're a PSHE lead, that's going to be especially helpful for you. There's also knowledge organisers for each set of lessons, and they're there to help you so that if a question comes up during one of the lessons, you can check that knowledge organiser and know that the information that you're using to answer that question is accurate. Now, in terms of what's in those lessons, in years 1 and 2, pupils look at how to help to keep themselves safe, what medicines are and how they can help to keep us healthy, and some safety rules for medicines and household products. That's revisited in years 3 to 4, again looking at the safe use of medicines and household products, and then looking at safety rules and risks about alcohol and smoking. They also start to develop some skills about managing pressure and seeking support. In year 5 to 6, they look again at medicines, but this is then extended to vaccinations as well. They look at the risks and effects of drugs, both legal and illegal, and then they again develop their skills about managing pressure and influence, and especially look at media influence. In secondary, in year 7 and 8, they revisit and develop their skills of managing influence and pressure. They learn about positive social norms around the use of substances to challenge myths about how many people are perhaps using substances. And they learn about the risks and effects specifically of caffeine, alcohol, and tobacco. In year 9, they do some more exploration around attitudes to drug use, about the law in relation to drugs, and about the effects and risks of alcohol and cannabis. They learn again how to manage influence and again seek support, this time in some slightly different contexts. In year 10 and 11, they learn skills that will help them as they approach a more independent way of living. So they learn how to assess risk in relation to alcohol and drugs and decision making. They learn how to manage influence in relation to substance use, and again, how to seek support and help for themselves or for others. I hope you enjoyed the lessons. Please do let us know how you get on with them, and thank you for joining us today. Please do contact us if you have any further questions with the subject line, Ask a Subject Specialist, and we'll be delighted to answer your questions in a future episode.